The Gaza Strip is once again facing heavy bombardment. On November 20, 2024, Israeli forces launched numerous airstrikes. These strikes targeted residential areas in northern Gaza. Many civilians were caught in the crossfire. The situation is dire, with widespread fear and destruction. The international community is watching with concern. Many nations have called for an immediate ceasefire. The safety and well-being of civilians must be paramount. The United Nations is working to provide humanitarian aid to those affected by the violence. The recent escalation in Gaza took a horrifying turn when an Israeli airstrike hit a hospital. The hospital, already struggling with limited resources due to the ongoing conflict, was overwhelmed with casualties. The attack resulted in the deaths of at least 15 people, including patients and medical staff. Prior to the attack, the hospital had issued a distress call, desperately pleading for a halt to the violence. The call went unanswered. The incident has sparked outrage and condemnation from international organizations and governments worldwide. The targeting of medical facilities and personnel constitutes a grave violation of international law. The relentless cycle of violence in Gaza has plunged its population into a deepening humanitarian crisis. The recent escalation of airstrikes has only exacerbated the already dire situation. Thousands of Palestinians have been displaced from their homes, seeking refuge in overcrowded shelters where basic necessities are scarce. Essential supplies, including medical aid, food, and clean water, are running dangerously low due to the ongoing blockade. The healthcare system, already strained by years of conflict, is on the verge of collapse. The international community must act swiftly and decisively to provide humanitarian aid and alleviate the suffering of the Palestinian people. Israel maintains that its military operations in Gaza are essential for its security. The Israeli government argues that the airstrikes are targeting militant infrastructure and preventing rocket attacks on its territory. They claim their actions are in self-defense and aim to protect their citizens. Israel accuses militant groups in Gaza of using civilians as human shields, making it difficult to target military objectives without causing civilian casualties. They also point to the indiscriminate nature of rocket fire from Gaza, which has resulted in injuries and damage within Israel. Section 5, The World Reacts, calls for peace and aid. The international community has expressed grave concern over the escalating violence in Gaza and condemned the heavy toll on civilians. Numerous countries and international organizations have called for an immediate ceasefire and urged both sides to de-escalate the situation. The United Nations has called for unimpeded humanitarian access to Gaza to deliver essential aid to the beleaguered population. The Red Cross has emphasized the need to protect civilians and medical facilities, reminding all parties of their obligations under international humanitarian law. Section 6, Gaza Under Fire, a Wider Perspective. The recent escalation in Gaza is not an isolated incident. It is part of a broader and long-standing Israeli military campaign in the region. The Gaza Strip, home to over 2 million Palestinians, has been under Israeli blockade for over a decade, severely restricting the movement of people and goods. This blockade has crippled Gaza's economy and severely limited access to essential resources, including healthcare, education, and employment opportunities. The repeated cycles of violence further exacerbate the humanitarian crisis, leaving the population trapped in a cycle of poverty and despair. Section 7, Echoes of Conflict. Beirut under attack. The conflict in the Middle East extends beyond the borders of Gaza. In recent weeks, Beirut, the capital of Lebanon, has also become a target of Israeli airstrikes. The suburb of Dahieh, a Hezbollah stronghold, has been particularly hard hit, with reports of powerful explosions and significant damage. These attacks have resulted in civilian casualties and widespread destruction of infrastructure, further fueling tensions in the region. The situation in Beirut highlights the interconnected nature of conflicts in the Middle East and the far-reaching consequences of the ongoing violence. Section 8, Documenting Devastation, a Digital Lens on War. In the midst of the chaos and destruction, two TikTokers, Ali Baydoun and Adam Kasek, have taken it upon themselves to document the impact of the airstrikes in Beirut. Armed with their smartphones, they filmed the damage caused to homes and businesses in Dahieh, sharing their videos on social media. Their efforts aim to provide a raw and unfiltered glimpse of the devastation, allowing displaced families to assess the condition of their homes from afar. Their videos have garnered widespread attention, raising awareness about the human cost of the conflict and the plight of those affected by the violence. Section 9, The Uncertain Future of Gaza and Beirut. As the dust settles on the latest wave of violence, the future of Gaza and Beirut remains uncertain. The humanitarian crisis in Gaza continues to worsen, with the civilian population bearing the brunt of the conflict. The international community faces the daunting task of brokering a lasting ceasefire and addressing the root causes of the conflict. The people of Gaza and Beirut deserve to live in peace and security, free from the constant threat of violence and displacement. It is imperative for the international community to work towards a just and sustainable solution that addresses the legitimate grievances of all parties involved and paves the way for a more hopeful future.